and welcome back to Bookish theories. In today's video, I would like to talk about Dreamcatcher's Odai, focusing on a little breakdown and analysis of the lyrics, the music video, and its connections to both Scream and BOCA. Odai is a song that deals with the themes of hopelessness and despair, that expresses the pain and sorrow of a person who discovers that the utopia that they dreamt about is nothing more than a lie. Now, with this release, Dreamcatcher officially concluded the Dystopia Trilogy that first began back in Scream. This was a series that talked about the power of language and its potential to hurt people when used in a negative way, and even if this concept was initially explored with a narrative filled with fantastical elements, the progressive inclusion of technology made it very clear that the dystopia that Dreamcatcher was talking about was much more real than what it seemed at first. You see, in comparison to the Nightmare series, which followed a horror concept that portrayed the girl's battle against an evil entity, the Dystopia Trilogy explored an issue that every idol in the industry and pretty much anybody else has to deal with on a daily basis. In this narrative, the girls discussed the consequences of hateful language and portrayed their attempt at facing the dystopian reality that is hidden in the world of social media. And if the title of this last installment implied that this journey might lead us to a positive resolution, Odai subverted this idea by showing us that this world is indeed as hopeless as it seems. If in Scream Dreamcatcher reacted to hate with anger and a wish for vengeance, in BOCA the girls also expressed their desire to find a solution to this problem in the hope of saving the lives that this hate claims every day. But in a surprising turn of events, Odai destroys this resolution by stating that their hope for change has started to fade away the moment that they realize that this fate cannot actually be stopped. Now, even if at first glance this ending might seem quite unexpected, the truth of the matter is that this is an epilogue that might actually have been foreshadowed since the very beginning. Back in Scream, for instance, Dreamcatcher showed us the origins of evil language by portraying Guyon accidentally releasing it in the real world in a series of events that strongly recalled the myth of Pandora's box. And if in BOCA we saw the girls being hunted down by people who were being taken over by the dystopian reality of technology, Odai concludes this narrative by showing us the girls eventually falling victims of it as well. Now, as tragic as this ending might be, Odai actually reflects on a problem that is much older and more universal than it seems. As Scream showed us, evil language predates the advent of technology, so even if we might argue that social media made it worse, Scream also conveyed the idea that people have abused their power of language long before technology came into play. The reference to Pandora's box, for instance, heavily implied that this is part of our nature, and in both Scream and Odai, this idea is conveyed by focusing on the symbolism connected to the eyes of an individual. Back in Scream, for instance, the release of evil language was followed by the awakening of the devil eyes, and in the choreography we saw that these devil eyes were none other than a part of the girls themselves. Those visuals there heavily suggested that in the story Dreamcatcher is telling us here, Guyon breaking the stone overlapped with evil language spreading in the world and inside of ourselves. And in the context of Odai, this idea is more relevant than ever, because if in Scream the devil eyes came, in Odai the devil eyes took over. You see, the concept of the song itself here seems to have been inspired by the common belief that people and animals with heterochromia have the ability to see into different worlds. If some traditions say that one eye looks at reality and the other looks at the heavens, however, other cultures associated heterochromia to a person's connection to the underworld. One eye sees life and the other sees death, one eye sees good and the other sees evil. So if we apply this idea to our storyline, we can say that first and foremost, the Odais actually represent the duality at the core of human nature. Now, since the concept of the song heavily focuses on the world of the internet, we can say that in this context, the Odais also represent the contrast between reality and the fantasy created by technology. In the lyrics, we see that the girls begin the road to utopia by opening their eyes and crossing the boundaries between reality and illusion, and even if at first glance they are stunned by the beauty of it all, soon enough they realize that this utopia is a lie. As the lyrics tell us, when they look deeper into this world, they see that everything is a plausible lie overshadowed by sweetness, and this realization fills them with sorrow because the utopia that they were looking for is nothing more than a mirage. Now, the idea that technology provides a door into a perfect illusion actually explains why people are so drawn to it. Like we see in both BOCA and Odai, this is a world that literally pulls you in. It makes you escape the problems of your everyday life and allows you to become anything you want by hiding behind the mask that you create for yourself. But as we see in the video, this fantasy is destructive because as soon as people wear this mask, this persona takes over them. As we see throughout the trilogy, anybody can be hiding behind this mask. It might be a friend, it might be an enemy, or as we see right at the beginning, it may even be yourself. And this is scary because what Dreamcatcher is telling us here is that all of us have the potential to lose ourselves in this dystopia created by hate. As we see in Yuyon's scene, for instance, spending too much time hiding behind your mask can literally corrupt you. And as Sua shows us, the consequences of getting pulled in too deep into this world might actually transform you into a person that is defined by the hateful language that you spread. Even if this hate can kill you, it can also change you into something that your past self would never recognize. And while the song doesn't offer a solution to this problem, it does offer an explanation that is largely connected to the idea of detachment. As the song tells us, hope is lost when we realize that this reality cannot be changed, but the reason why it cannot be changed is because we as people follow the shadow that we think is chasing us. What this means is that the moment we fall into this technological dystopia, the risk is to become like the very people that spread hate without even realizing it. The more we go down into this rabbit hole, the more we start to think like them, behave like them, and eventually become them. So when this process consumes us, the hater and the hated become one and the same. Hateful language is a monster that basically feeds on itself. The more we spread it, the more it destroys us. So as Jiyu's scene shows us, the dystopia is essentially created when us and the persona that we created get separated and run away from one another. When we follow the shadow of hate, we basically become the shadow that chases someone else. And in the video, this idea is best conveyed in Han-dong's scene, where we see her choking the persona that she created on the internet. If you look closely, her image is reflected on a cracked mirror, so the real problem here is that there is a disconnect. We fail to realize that the people we are hurting are people like us, so the utopia that was meant to connect us is now a dystopia that separates us. As Jiyu shows us, this illusion has blinded us to the point that we don't realize that we are the ones spreading the fire that is destroying us, so it comes to no surprise that this journey ends with a failure, because this is a problem that's much bigger than a single individual. The longing for a perfect illusion led us to a world that we cannot control. It's a reality that is self-destructive, but is also thriving because of its toxicity, so as long as we don't take responsibility for our behavior, this dystopia will always exist, because even if we can run away from reality, we can never run away from ourselves. So that's it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please think about liking and subscribing. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye bye!